Over mind, what I'm going to try and cover are basically two things. One, I want to look into the tools that you guys can use for your studies and how to do things that will be self-improving in terms of the things you do on a day-to-day basis, and we're going to try and make sure that it aligns to Ufunda Way. And then the second part of my session will then also cover AI to a certain level. And then with me, I have Zita, who's going to also delve deeper into coding and software development. And then I have Ululama, who's going to help us in this particular session with a little demonstration that you already understand what coding is. You are all probably already doing it without realizing it. And then in the afternoon, Lulama becomes the champion of the day, where she will be walking you guys throughout and guiding you guys with our support through the development or the coding that we're going to be doing. So, typically, a human brain is not very good at keeping information past either a conversation or even worse, keeping it over one night. So if we have a conversation today and you learn izinto, chances of you remembering zonke lezi zinto by tomorrow are slim to none. And it's not a fault of anyone, it's not a design of a brain or everything, it just simply means your brain, like any other thing, needs to be trained in how to go about to remember those particular skill sets, knowledge that you learned, and it will then, once you learn how to store and retrieve information, it becomes easier for you when you go into an exam, and you are able to then retrieve whatever it is that you either learned for your school or even in your personal lives where you're having conversations with people. So it's not a memory problem. So it's not that something's wrong with your memory. It's not that maybe when you're making it has nothing to do with that. It's all about training. Typically, what you need to do is basically you need to find a way to capture information. The format of capture could be different. It could be reading something, it could be taking a screenshot, it could be writing yourselves notes, like sticky notes, flashcards. So the first part of memory or remembering something is capture. So you need to find something that works for you and then be able to capture whatever information that you have or you've been given so that you will recall and remember it in another day. And retain it. The retention is basically storing. So once you've captured the information, whether it's a screenshot that you did, whether it's a voice note that you recorded whilst you were trying to remind yourself, whether it's the notes that you took, the next element is retention. How do you keep the information that you have, that you've gotten, so that you know where to find it, you know how to easily understand it, so that it's available for you to actually just go into your retention box, get the information and then use it. And then after that is also the key aspect of you guys are worse, or rather you are at a disadvantage. Tina, when we grew up, we didn't have things like TVs, internet, and phones. TVs are still and paying 12 episodes. So there wasn't anything like sitting and watching TV, there were no social media. So you guys have a lot more distractions in your day-to-day. The question becomes, how do you then focus, take that information so that when you are doing that particular exercise, how do you actually make sure that that is the only thing that you are focusing on and that's what you're trying to do and so that you are able to capture. So it becomes a question of making sure that you protect your attention. So you remove zonke izinto that could possibly detract you or distract you from the focus that you need. This is slightly controversial, where we're saying don't actually trust in which it's cliche because it's all that we have. It's not don't trust your own brain. But I'm going back to the capture component. Assuming your brain has the ability to remember yonke at the time you need it is very risky. So when you say don't trust your brain, that's what we mean. We're not saying your brain doesn't work. We're not saying your brain won't recall. We're just saying it probably won't recall everything as cut off from the record us. So therefore, have systems or practices that help you capture izinto to help your brain or help drop your brain. So the brain will record like a hard drive. You record, so technically speaking, your brain is probably the biggest hard drive there is in the world. It retains and records every single piece of information that it ever reads and it ever comes across. Whether it's an experience, it's a picture that you saw, it's something you read, you wrote, it's in your brain. It's a question of knowing or creating tools that allow you to then recall that information from your hard drive, from your storage, from that file that it's filed in. So that's what we mean when we say don't trust your brain, but rather, so you use other tools like, you guys have phones now, you saw something that is interesting to you, information that you want, record a voice note to yourself to say, this is, I need to do this on this day. Take notes, set dates. So you use a variety of tools that are already on all your phones. Your phones have note takers, they have voice notes. I think almost everyone here probably uses WhatsApp. Send a voice note to yourself as a storage mechanism of saying, namhlanje ngibone A, B, no C, kusasa I need to go investigate and learn more. So that's what we mean when we say help your brain, help yourself to capture and retain information. So we're saying basically use voice notes. You guys already have them. Save it in your folders, in your phones. Take a picture of it. Again, visual presentations, practicing allows for a lot more recollection. Once you see something in a visual format, it becomes much more easier to recall than something you just read. Ukufunda ama-notes like a book, basically going from page 1 to page 2 and all the way to the end of the book. When you get to the end or the end of the chapter or the end of the book, generally speaking, there is a chance that you feel like you achieved something, which you did. However, if after reading a chapter or a book, I were to stand in front of you and ask you questions, there is a likelihood that there will be things that you don't remember. So what you want to do is, you want to make sure that when you are doing that, you are either making notes on items or sections that were prevalent, that made sense to you, or questions that you have, flashcards where you say, I saw this, what is it, what does this mean, how do you understand it? So what flashcards basically do, as an example in this particular slide, is that you might have a section of a book that is talking about the functions of the human heart. The likelihood of you remembering all of that, and it's like 30 pages, is slim to none. So what you then do, you use things like flashcards to remember and document specific sections and specific functions of the heart. So you could say the heart does 1, 2, 3, 4. In the book, they won't necessarily just list it like that. It will be an entire section or pages of theory, function, history, everything. But what you want to do to remember all of those things, you could literally go and say in your flashcard, functions of the heart. So instead of writing all notes out 20,000 that you saw, you simply list them. When you list them, because you've already read the content, the minute you list item number one on your list, your brain will automatically remember the detail behind it. So the idea of flashcards is the ability to flesh out or make points that are relevant to what you're trying to remember. Because you've read the content, you've recorded the content in your brain, the flashcards simply help you get there faster. And there's the issue of, which I mentioned earlier on, protecting your attention. Common theory is when you are studying for an exam or a test, whatever it is, you need break intervals. The idea that you can sit in your room or in a study hall and study for the next 2-3 hours is actually quite redundant. You are wasting your time. You need to be able to, in between sessions of 20, 25, 30 minutes, give yourself a 5-minute break. This is not because you are doing something wrong, it's just that your brain has limits to absorption. So if you read something for X amount of time, you will get fatigue, you will get brain fatigue. So what you then want to do is, after every certain number of minutes, and you can gauge those yourself, I'm not necessarily saying that it should be 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes, you can literally tell when your brain is no longer digesting anything. So an example of that is, you read, and you find yourself reading the same sentence 3 times. That's mental fatigue. So what you then need to do is step away from the book, go for a walk, go grab a glass of water, get your brain to breathe a little bit, you go back into whatever you're doing. So protecting your attention comes from that particular space, and then obviously setting up times where you are literally not focusing on the TV, not focusing on your phone, and all of those things. That's what we mean when we're saying you have to protect your attention when you are doing your particular studies. Again, so what I try to do here, you guys can, I'll give this to Mrs. Kenny, and you guys could take a look at it at some point. So these are tools that are already available for you guys online. They're free. None of them are subscription based. So you can go into there, download it, and use it whenever you want to use it. So from a catch-up perspective, Google has something that is it's almost like an app for notes, which is free. So you can use that to basically keep all your notes, your texts, your voice notes. So basically it's a storage kind of app where you are storing all your stuff. Again, example I made, WhatsApp, message yourself. I know that probably none of you message yourselves. I do it a lot. When I find something that I'm interested in that I want to remember, I send myself a WhatsApp so that it comes up and I'm able to see and it doesn't get lost in the 20,000 messages that I receive on a day-to-day basis. Again, take a photo and keep that photo. For me, please that and also Khan Academy, all of these places are free. You go in there, there's all kinds of content that you'll find from there. Some of it are practical exercises that are relevant to your studies in terms of curriculum for high schools. Especially with Khan Academy, you will find places there that you guys just need to use for yourselves. Quizlet is basically, again, it helps with mental exercises and quizzes. You go in there, practice, do the flash cards, the quiz games. The point of all it is to help your brain to remember things better by using something less conventional than just reading a book. Anki, again, uses flashcards. From a focus perspective, so they are basically apps that will help you with that as well. But then your phones also have built-in stuff where you can literally switch off your apps, mute certain things on your phone so that you are not distracted by notifications or even being tempted to go and look into those things. So, and then there are obviously timers. So there's apps like Pomodoro, where again, when I mentioned about taking breaks, you can time yourself and say, I'm gonna study for 30 minutes, and then it reminds you that it's time to take breaks. So the idea behind capture, retain, and focus, and all the tools that I showed you, I'm not asking you guys to use all of them. It's not going to work. So pick one, use it, get used to it, move on to the next one. So when I say move on to the next one, I mean start by capturing. And once you've learned how to consistently capture the things that you need to do, find a way to retain that information and then move on to. And before you know it, you would have chosen probably one application or one activity or habit that has to do with capturing, one that has to do with retention, one that has to do with focus, and then you use that as a tool set. So this is about tool sets, things that will help you in whatever it is that you are in your studies. So use it for a while. Habit is created by doing something repeatedly until you know what it is and how it works. Okay. Before I jump into AI, do you guys actually take questions, or do you guys want me to finish? It's going to take me another 5-10 minutes before we finish. All right. So, something's very interesting about AI. I'm pretty sure some of you are already using it in one format or the other. I know ChatGPT is very, very popular. Your phones probably have Copilot, which comes with most of the phones now. You're going to get to Varsity. There's going to be AI platforms that you're probably going to be tempted to get them to write your assignments, which, yeah, we'll talk about that. But the point is, AI, in its current format, my understanding of it, and in the context of today, sometimes sounds clever, but it's giving you rubbish. So AI is a prompt system. If you prompt it incorrectly, it gives you rubbish. If you also don't understand the topic or have a clue about the topic that you're asking AI about, it means you can't course correct it. So if you ask something that, for example, if I simply said to AI, how do I get from here to Joburg? That's an open-ended question. It will give you whatever it feels like. It could tell me right now, walk from here to the airport, or walk whatever from it. But if you are specific and you say to it, I want to go to Joburg and I need to be there at 8 p.m. tonight, it's going to start thinking, what is the most probable way of getting Sandile there from UKZN Westville to Joburg so that he's there by 8 p.m. Then it's going to start giving you information that is a lot more crisp, a lot more cleaner. So you can take it a step further. I want to go from here, UKZN Westville, I want to go to Joburg. I do not want to use Uber. I do not want to fly. See, you're giving it more details now. So that's what I mean.